Good morning, early game crew. Just a couple days away now from kicking things off at Williams-Brice Stadium for the home opener between South Carolina and South Carolina State. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we have a whole lot to get into today because not only are we about to kick things off in that beautiful stadium here in Columbia, but the NFL starts tonight too. Has snuck up on all of us. But the National Football League kicks off tonight. There's a whole lot to look forward to.
Yeah, if you listen to the show leading into us, he made the mistake of saying football is back. And I was like, brother,
you've been missing.
Yeah, you've been missing out. But it's a national show. We get it. And the nation as a whole is focused on the NFL. The NFL is the biggest show in town. It is America's game. And tonight is game one.
Yeah.
And they, as the NFL is want to do, they bring us a banger to start off.
See, I hear a statement like that, and I wonder if my man Pat Boyle has ever went south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Very, very true.
At any point in his life.
Good point.
Because we've been playing football all right. Mm-hmm. We've been playing some football, and we now have a week of sample size for most teams across the country. So going into a game two, which means I have film to watch for a team's game one. Now it's South Carolina State, an FCS game. I went back yesterday and watched their season opener against Wofford. Yes, I need to go outside and touch some grass. And you know what I did after that game? I was like, I need to go outside. I watched that game. I was like, I need to go outside.
You had to go let the sun recharge you?
Because that was not a good football game. That was not. I mean, we talked about week one-iness all last week and how teams can avoid it. What are maybe some examples that we saw throughout week one in college football? But Wofford and South Carolina State, let me present to you the week one-iest game in college football in 2025.
Yeah, and for those that didn't watch it, me being main chief amongst us, explain the scoring breakdown of that.
Yeah, so again, 16-15.
As South Carolina State won.
Yep, South Carolina State won. There was not an offensive touchdown scored until a minute and a half left in the game. That was the go-ahead score for the Bulldogs, right? Well, Wofford scored by returning a kick for a touchdown, blocking a punt and scooping and scoring it, and then pinning South Carolina State at their own 2 and sacking them in the end zone for a safety.
So just off that, if you're South Carolina, you're saying we can make some gains in the special teams.
You should be able to have the day of your life in special teams. There was one blocked punt. There were 3 almost blocked punts. It was really close a couple of times where I was like, ooh.
And again, this is where those FCS teams lose games or lose in the margins because they don't have a dedicated long snapper, or they don't have some of the luxuries that other football programs have, and that's where you kind of lose things. So the kicking game gets a little wonky. Maybe the kicker's not on scholarship, or maybe there's a lot of different ways that the special teams game can lose for teams in FCS. So you put that weakness with this strength,
and we might have some fun on Saturday, and they absolutely should. In general, just on the premise of playing an FCS team early in the season or even late in the season, you should be able to win and cover whatever spread is going to be presented.
By the way, I didn't see one.
I haven't seen one either.
Yeah. So they're just like
thoughts and prayers. South Carolina State, thoughts and prayers. That's what's going to be necessary. And I thought your assessment yesterday of South Carolina State's offense was pretty spot on. It is very much a West Coast style offense. They're not going to push the ball down the field a ton, but it's a lot of quick hitting action, a lot of out routes, a lot of quick slants. They are snapping the ball in the shotgun and they're getting the ball out. And they do run a lot of no huddle. However, very interestingly, they play a lot of no huddle without playing fast.
Yes.
So they will no huddle, but they'll get to the line of scrimmage and they'll stand there for a little bit. They'll get the call. They almost kind of lull you to sleep a little bit. And I found myself oftentimes, like for when I rewatch a game, I'll watch it on ESPN, on the ESPN app after the fact. And I will fast forward, I'll press the little forward button that takes you about 5 seconds ahead so I can try to just see the snaps. I don't care too much unless I really want to see a replay of something. Then I'll stick around a little bit. I saw where State many times would go no huddle, and I'd be like, oh, they're about to snap the ball. All right, I can't fast forward it yet. And then I'd find them standing around, and then I would try to guess when they were doing it, and I'd miss a play and I'd have to go back. So then I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to watch all of it.
So again, that's going to lead to, as I'm just trying to give you a viewing guide as a fan, that could lead to a little bit of frustration. They dink, they dunk, they throw a little screen here, a little slant here, they get to the line, then they're waiting, the clock's running down, you're getting frustrated, they convert a 3rd and 6. I'm just telling you, is the possibility for South Carolina's going to win this game?
Yes.
All right, let me make my bold prediction now. However, as a viewing fan, there could be some frustrations as you're watching the game just because of the style of the game that South Carolina State plays.
Yeah, there absolutely can and probably will be.
Probably, yeah. I wouldn't put that past it for it to happen. Now, the big, like I said, you talked about them being week 1 in this, and this is just an early scout report, but last year they had the MEAC Offensive Player of the Year, and Eric Phoenix was the quarterback. He was nasty. He drove that train, and he's the one that really led to a lot of that success. Well, it's tough to replace the guy. And it seems
like walking through that door. No.
It seems like they're struggling in that aspect.
They certainly are. And when it came to like what their quarterback situation was last Saturday, now they have 2 quarterbacks, Ryan Stubblefield and William Atkins IV. William Atkins is a transfer from James Madison, where he maybe had just a handful of snaps in terms of being able to get on the field for the Dukes. But he got a majority of the snaps and had a significant amount more dropbacks. Ryan Stubblefield, I think, is kind of like in their mind, the backup quarterback. He's a much better scrambler with the ball, Stubblefield is. But their only touchdown drive engineered by Stubblefield, and he had fewer cracks at the or bites at the apple, so to speak, than Atkins did. Both quarterbacks actually missed a lot of throws. And the receivers had a severe case of the dropsies. Mm-hmm. I think they're credited with 4 drops. You probably could have boosted that to 5 or 6, just depending on who you're, attributing blame to. But their offense had a lot of stuff to figure out. And unfortunately for Coach Barry and his staff, it's hard to rectify all of that going into the biggest stadium you'll play in all year, the best defense you'll play in all year, and that team being the number 10 team in the country with South Carolina. I mean, they definitely have their work cut out for them, like most FCS teams do when they come and play in a game like this. But I don't think we're going to have an Appalachian State situation.
Gotcha.
A 2007 Appalachian State Michigan situation.
And again, as the number 10 team in the country, we have to be able to say that. We can't be going into this game, no. We're done with that. Moving forward, we should handle an FCS team the way they need to be handled. And that's, you should take care of business pretty early, pretty often against a team. This is a good team. I want to make sure we're very clear. It's a good, well-coached, disciplined FCS team. However, if we claim to be the number 10 team in the nation, should not be an issue.
Right. It should not be at all, right? But that's the kind of the situation for South Carolina State coming into this game. And I consider myself to have some patriotism. I'd like to see the Bulldogs after this week be able to turn it around and go back to the Celebration Bowl. But
yeah, and it's very much on the table.
Yeah, very much so on the table for them. And it would make this win, this blowout win, look pretty good. And I think for the defense, for the Gamecocks, the goal should be not giving up a point at all, even when you do put backups in. If I'm Clayton White, I'm going back into that room and I'm saying all week long, guys, we can put up a donut here. I mean, and that should be the goal, is to not let them cross the 50 and put up a donut and help your averages out at the end of the year. Once we start looking at final tallies for everything, that you should be able to at least look back at this game this year and be like, yep, we had a shutout. As good as the defense played on Sunday, I kind of expect that even on a pretty short week. But that is South Carolina State. We talked about the NFL starting tonight. The coordinators spoke yesterday, and some interesting stuff from both Mike Shula, Clayton White, and Joe DeCamillis as well. I do like that Joe's getting to speak. Special teams is such a large part of the game. We'll start with Mike Shula, because I think the most hot button topic in terms of things for South Carolina that need to be addressed would be an improvement on the offensive line play. So Mike Shula started off yesterday's presser with his evaluation of the offense, specifically the offensive line.
Well, I think, kind of about what you saw out there. I mean, there was some really good things at times and some things that weren't as good. The good things were, I'm sure, as Shane has probably talked about, we got off to a good start. Stayed out of the third downs and in that first drive, except for the last one. The negative plays are what kill you on offense. And that's what we preach about it. And even if you kind of get a little momentum, and then all of a sudden you have a negative play, then it kind of just stalls, and you're kind of you're playing behind the sticks. And so we got to avoid that. Try to avoid that much more than we did the other day. After the good start, we kind of fell into that a little bit. But I was proud of the way the guys just kind of continued to stay focused, stay dialed in. That's hard when things, the emotions of the game, how the way your feelings go after a drive when you scored and you come back and you go 3 and out, or you have a negative play or whatever, take a safety or whatever it is. You just got to kind of, and they did a good job of that. Now, it wasn't perfect by any means, but overall, obviously it's good to win, and it's all about winning and getting better, and that's kind of been the theme for today. And the offensive line was probably a microcosm of what I just talked about.
I think the big takeaway here, the emphasis on the negative plays. What was it that Clark Brooks told us when we had him on not too long ago?
He told us that South Carolina was the best at going negative, at going backwards.
Yeah, you don't want to be going in reverse.
Yeah, that's not how you design or plan an offense. And so I know there's some fancy metrics that probably like yards before contact and things of that. You can sort of look at. We'll build a case as we go throughout the year and look at some of those things. But if you are going backwards, it's going to make it much more difficult. And what it does as an offensive coordinator, it limits your playbook. Now you have less plays that you can call because you're in such a tough situation. You have less downs. Less downs, more yards equals bad situation.
And what was the big thing this thing I asked Shane about on Wednesday was, or not Wednesday, Tuesday, weeks, wow, was that your average third down distance was 3rd and 9. And that's why you were not as successful on third down as Virginia Tech was. And he mentioned the flip side, defensively as good as they were still giving up maybe too many good first down runs or first down plays to create a 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, really advantageous short yardage situations for the opposing offense. You'd like to see that mirrored a little bit for South Carolina, because once you do get into SEC play, it's going to be a lot harder to convert 3rd and 9. It's going to be hard to convert 3rd and 13. You did it on Sunday because Lenoris Sellers is Superman, but you don't want to have to rely on Lenoris being Superman all the time and rely on that to be the consistency of your offense.
Right. Everybody talks about third down conversion, and it's a metric, and it makes a lot of sense.
It's important.
But, however, also you have to look at what did they do on the 1st and 2nd down, and how long were those conversions, and what was asked of the offense or defense on those particular plays.
And that's really one thing I'm looking for Saturday is how can the offense, even against a defense you're supposed to just completely move the ball up and down the field against, how do you still take advantage of those 1st and 2nd downs? What's the play calling like? What do we see from the play calling? And specifically the run game. Can you run the ball well enough on 1st and 2nd down? Because I think Mike Shula likes to do that, to be able to see moving forward exactly how sustainable it could be for your offense to stay out of 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, because that's when things can start getting really frustrating around here. We'll go and take a quick break because Clayton White spoke as well, and there are a couple of players on the defense that I think made everybody kind of raise their eyebrow a little bit. A couple players who drew a lot of attention. Players not named Dylan Stewart, guys we thought were going to be really good coming into the year. It was the best positive surprise for this South Carolina team coming into week 1. What does Clayton White have to say about it? What does he think about his defense after the first game of the season? You'll hear from him next on the Early Game.
All right, y'all. Listen, we've been telling y'all this whole time that you need to get yourself ready, and here we are. NFL is back. College is back. Football is here. Do you have your outdoor setup ready to enjoy the beautiful season that is upon us? Well, the folks at Integrated Media can help you. Give them a call. You can get Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, or Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors so you can control all your devices from just one remote. Your laptop, your iPad, your television, all of that stuff can be controlled, and the Wi-Fi won't lag so you can watch everything at the same time. From home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security system, Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. Call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
Don't have any accidents to report at this time. Sunny and 89 for the high today. Sunny tomorrow and Saturday. 92 for the high tomorrow. And on game day, we're looking for a high of 93. Sunday, we could see some isolated thunderstorms popping in and drop down to about 87. So a couple more summer-like days, increased humidity for the next few days through at least Saturday. We're 64 currently on 107.5 The Game.
4 quarters of play on Sunday, and the South Carolina defense gave up 0 touchdowns in that game. One of the big stories of that game was holding Virginia Tech to only 9 total offensive points. One of those, or 3 of those points, came from a 56-yard field goal right at the tail end of the first half. It was really, to me, the biggest surprise of the game wasn't that they played well on defense. It was how well they played on defense. Clayton White spoke yesterday, so we'll hear some from him. But I want to start off with one of the concerns right now, which is injuries. I think coming into the season, we all expected Judge Collier to be maybe the best defensive back on this team. I expected him to have a breakout season because of, the prototype, how well he played towards the end of last year. I expected a lot of things from Judge Collier, but he only played 6 snaps in the game against Virginia Tech on Sunday. How are they going to replace him, knowing he's very unlikely to play on Saturday? This was Clayton White yesterday.
Yes, we always feel like here, this is the first year that we feel like we had multiple guys that we feel like it was game ready, and it's a luxury to have Miles Dorwood and Vakari Swain and other guys that we're training. We still have Jalua Solomon that we're trying to train, and obviously we have Cisse, but it's good. We have between Miles and Vakari and Jalua, we have a lot of guys that can step in and help us out right there. But it's nice to be able to have some bodies.
One name I think that I wasn't necessarily stunned to hear, but intrigued by, in terms of a player being thrown into that mix in the defensive backs, was Jalua Solomon. Somebody that I know the coaching staff's really high on, I know Clayton White's really high on, that is going to get an opportunity against South Carolina State while Judge Collier kind of recovers from this injury. And thankfully, Judge isn't expected to be out long-term from what Shane told us on Tuesday. But a big opportunity for somebody like Jalua Solomon to get some real-time reps at this level.
Yeah, because game reps are a lot obviously different than practice reps, right? You practice against the players that you sort of know the routes, you get into a routine, you understand that. A game is a lot different. You get a chance to evaluate them against a different opponent, even if it is an FCS opponent. You still want to see how when the lights are on, when the uniform's on, when everything's going a little bit faster. So that's maybe the blessing in having a player who's hurt but not necessarily injured for the year. You get a chance to pick some other players in. But I did want to make sure that is mentioned, and I'll talk about it tomorrow and talk about this later, is that this is why football is different than every other sport, because in baseball, basketball to an extent, when you play a lesser opponent, the idea of somebody getting catastrophically injured is not really, yes, it can happen. But in football, that is always on the table. And so that's why you always have to take these games you have to prepare as if you're playing the national championship, because in one instance, the season could drastically change because of injuries. So that's always something to keep your eye on as you prepare for a team that you should handle pretty easily.
I think that's why everybody in Gamecock Nation here is knocking on wood right now, because they're getting flashbacks of Connor Shaw versus Wofford, and then having to go into the Clemson game without your starting quarterback.
Correct.
Turned out well. Dylan Thompson had a backup quarterback game of a lifetime.
One of the best. One
of the best backup quarterback games. That was fun to revisit earlier this summer, but you don't want to have to do that this year, especially considering we're only in week 2, right? It's not something you want at all, so that's a really good point in terms of just preparing for the worst. But Jalua Solomon, definitely a player to end up watching for whenever we get into action on Saturday. Clayton White also talked about the linebacking room, specifically J.R. Johnson, because I think that was the one player where, if you're not even looking at a box score, you're just watching the game, that you are noticing every single play. I probably wouldn't have to tell you that he had 10 tackles and led the team in tackles. You probably understood that just by watching the game, because of just how ubiquitous he was on the football field and how much he proved he's got the speed and athleticism and the physicality to not just play at this level, to exceed at this level. Here was Clayton White yesterday talking about Fred J.R. Johnson.
Yes, obviously he has some flash plays. It's always good, for someone that you're coaching that's on this football team to have a flash moment. He had a couple of those, and he flew around. Obviously, details within when we get into our linebacker room, details that he can obviously improve on. But obviously, he had a really good football game. He got SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Just proud of how he played, and I love the fact how he approaches the game as a young player. I think that's only signs of just greatness. To just continue staying humble and continue down that process path. I think he'll be great.
Fred J.R. Johnson, SEC Defensive Player of the Week.
Always, that's a great way to start. Good thing, good thing to put on your jacket early in the game. I have to bring this back up again. You notice he said he flew around.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that Kane Womack and the linebackers at Alabama are not saying.
No one's going to be accused of flying around on that defense
and
from
so
last Saturday.
You hear him talk about J.R. Johnson flying around. That's baseline. Now that we got that, come on in here. Now let's work on your reads. Now let's work on your steps. Now let's work on the finer details. But we already have the minimum or the baseline doing it. So you're starting at an advantage when you have a guy who brings his effort to the table. So that's great for JR.
Yeah, and then the linebacking room as a whole. I mean, the one thing that I think was a constant throughout camp in terms of what players were talking about, what coaches were talking about when they're asked about the linebacking room was the freakish athleticism. And the name I most commonly heard was, Sean Murphy. And Sean played a fine game on Sunday. But the fact that it was Fred J.R. Johnson, Justin Okoronkwo that had a majority of the really big plays, the game-changing plays on the defense, I think is an incredibly encouraging sign. So I asked Coach Clayton White about Justin Okoronkwo yesterday, not just because of his speed. I think it's the one thing that stood out with everybody was how fast he played on Sunday. But what makes J.O. a good linebacker just outside of his speed?
Yeah, he's super smart. He's very intelligent young man. So I think that's an intangible that people don't realize, but he's very smart. So he understands a lot of different things, but I do think he plays hard. He does have some trigger about him where he can, kind of downhill, old school like Debo. He kind of reminds me of the Debo, but does some things a little bit different than Debo. But I do think that he does bring that little thump aspect to our defense, and also he's tough. He's hard nosed. He plays on special teams, and he can battle through some things. But I do think that's highly respected throughout our football program.
So I love just not that he is as athletic as he showed, as fast as he showed. There is a maturity about J.O. that goes along with his athleticism. And I think that's a byproduct of starting your college career a little lower on the depth chart.
Yeah, starting your career lower on the depth chart and where you start your college career. That makes a big difference too. Also, he said he's not just fast, he's not just athletic. He got a little bit of thump.
I want to start using that little thump to him.
Little thump. If a player got a little bit of thump, that's what you want. That's what you want as a linebacker. You want somebody who can bring a little bit of thump for sure.
And I think that's the thing about your linebacking room right now. The three linebackers that we talked about primarily between, J.O., Fred J.R. Johnson, Sean Murphy, I think they all have that level of speed and thump to them, which for an SEC linebacking group, you really have to be able to keep other teams below their season average in yards, points, everything like that. I think that's one thing to get everybody excited. I think that's one of the reasons why everybody's so excited about this football team. I think you could expect some week one-iness on offense. You just wanted to see what it looked like on the defensive side of the ball when you replaced all those players that you did. And it's not an easy task to replace a Bam Martin-Scott, a Debo Williams, a Demetrius Knight Jr. But after one game of sample size against a Power 4 opponent, it looks like you've done about as well as you could.
Yeah, and that's all you can ask for, and you will just want to improve as the next game. I think this is a perfectly ordered game for you to improve on some of the nuances that you're working on.
And then we'll go ahead and take a quick break because when we come back, it's time to make Preston mad against the machine. And by the machine, I just mean the numbers. Pro Football Focus has some really interesting stats about the South Carolina Gamecocks going into the South Carolina State game. What does Preston have to say about some of my analytical conclusions that I drew from over the weekend? We'll find out next here on the early game.
All right, guys, are you feeling like you lost your edge? Maybe brain fog's got you struggling to focus. Maybe you're working out and not getting the results that you're used to. Well, there's a reason why you're not feeling like yourself, and it might be low testosterone. But you don't have to just live with it. You can reclaim your drive, your energy, and your focus at the men's clinic. And Dr. Dan Boatnight will get to the bottom of it. This isn't some faceless online program. Dr. Boatnight personally tailors your treatment program based on your labs and your symptoms. And here's the best part. Your initial consultation with Dr. Boatnight is absolutely free. Come get your T-level checked. You have nothing to lose and your best self to gain. So don't wait. Call them at 803-875-MENS. That's 803-875-MENS. Or find them at mensclinicsc.com. That's mensclinicsc.com.
Well, today you didn't do anything.
Still no accidents to report, so good news for your Thursday morning. And 89 is going to be our high today. Sunny skies, sunny tomorrow, and sunny on Saturday. Today, 89, 92 on Friday, 93 for your game day before we maybe get some rain on Sunday. And then we get back into the 80s, really, for the foreseeable future after Saturday. Right now, though, 64 on the early game.
803-404-6100. That's the AAA Heating and Air phone line. And that's where David's hanging out right now. David, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning. I don't want to turn this into a call, lamenting on the rising cost of everything in America, although we could probably spend the entire show doing that.
Unfortunately.
But this is a sports entertainment show, and I would like to keep it that way. But, I'm excited about the season, even as a Clemson fan. I called a couple days ago, and I wanted to take my family to go see a game, and my buddy in Florence is a huge Gamecock fan and wanted me to look and see if I could find him 6 tickets in a row. So I just went on Ticketmaster for the Vandy game, Vanderbilt, and 6 tickets, best available Ticketmaster, $5,000.
Good Lord.
I'm not joking. You can look it up yourself. I looked up for just to take my family 4 tickets for just to get in upper deck. Over $1,000 for 4 tickets to the Vanderbilt, and I'm just like, you know what? This is. I don't want to sound like an old man or whatever, but it's just getting to the point where you can't. A regular family cannot go to a football game, and I hope these ticket prices come down in the next couple of weeks so that more people might have the opportunity to go. But it's probably looking like TV for my family unless something changes. But I just wanted to call in and see if y'all had run across any of those numbers yet when looking for tickets. I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. When it comes to college football, I can't be as much help. Thank you for your call, Dave. I can't be as much help because thankfully I chose to work in a profession where I get to go as part of my job. But I have seen prices, and they definitely mirror what David is saying. And and this is like an all sports thing too. I'm just bought, in the process of buying tickets to Saints Patriots for when I'm in Louisiana to cover Carolina LSU later this year in October. And just finding 2 tickets to watch 2 bad NFL teams feels atrocious. So I get it. I get that it is certainly not easy. And if I think that's an appropriate way to start Old Man versus Analytics, because I think all of us feel like old men complaining about ticket prices because they're definitely not coming down. And I think what David's experiencing, unfortunately, is a microcosm of what your average fan experiences, because you have to drop a bag to be able to get into the stadium nowadays.
Yeah, I think there's a really good article in the New York Times this past weekend about Disney World and how the premium experiences are going way up, while the other experiences are not. And I think that just is a microcosm for what the entertainment industry is as a whole, college football being a part of that industry. So if you extrapolate it, it's right in line with what the rest of the entertainment industry is going through. Unfortunately,
yeah, and I think he's right. We could go all day on that, but we'll go ahead and end that one right there, because now we'll get mad at other numbers, or we'll agree with them. But I have some conclusions based on some of the advanced numbers from Pro Football Focus. So for Old Man versus Analytics today, I thought it was appropriate to start with something that Preston mentioned earlier in the show in terms of yards. He mentioned yards before contact, but I got yards after contact.
All right.
I think it also paints a picture here, because 136 of South Carolina's 155 rushing yards on Sunday came after contact.
Wait. Slow down. One more time.
136 of the 155 came after contact.
Okay.
That won't get it done in SEC play.
Absolutely will not get it done. That won't get it done very far. That shouldn't have got it done last weekend. And that's something where that's not a narrative again. That is a number that points to the idea that your athletes, running back, quarterback, etc., are not having opportunities to move, run before they're getting hit.
Yeah.
That is a tough one.
Yeah, and of course, now for those who might say, Elijah, they only had 119 rushing yards. This accounts for sacks.
Right.
This takes into account that sacks aren't true rushing yard losses. So yeah, 136 of those of the 155 after contact, something to look for. Now, Nick Harbor at receiver had a third of the team's targets. He had 6 of the 18 targets on the team. Is this an ideal target share, or is 33% maybe too much for one receiver?
Ooh, this is a good one, because my football philosophy I'm growing into is that I want a guy. I want to be able to throw to a true wide receiver 1. I want a true running back 1. I want somebody to handle the lion's share of the work. So I'm fine with that target number for him. But what's not fine is that none of the other receivers got a lot of work. And so when you're only targeting one wide receiver, but the rest of your targets are dump down throws to the tight end, that doesn't convince me that we have the one running back or the wide receiver room that we've been being sold in the offseason.
Yeah, at least not yet. And
not yet.
I don't know if that was maybe a mismatch thing they thought they saw on the outside. Maybe there's some things they thought they could take advantage of with Nick. But that's certainly something to look forward to once we get at least to the Vanderbilt game. I think we're going to see a lot of guys get targets in the South Carolina State game on Saturday. At least I would hope we see a lot of different players get targets just to kind of see a little what we have in that room, right? Especially when it comes to the freshmen. But something to heavily monitor moving forward. You'd like to see more passes to Mazeo Bennett. If Jared Brown's healthy, you'd like to see him be a weapon or an option even in the pass game. Something to look for just as we continue moving on towards as the season kind of progresses. Justin Okoronkwo, talked about him in the last segment, forced 2 quarterback hurries on only 4 pass rush snaps. Maybe we'll see more of him rushing the passer as the season moves along.
So this is when you might want to get into this idea of bringing in a rabbit package where you can bring in an extra rusher, a guy who's with some speed that can come off the edge, because we know those interior guys don't specialize in rushing the passer. Maybe this is when he starts coming off the edge. You start substituting him. You get more of your athletes on the field. But this is also why it's important to win on first and second downs in your defensive drives, so that you can get to third and long, so that you can have opportunities to get your pass rush units on the field. So that is something I didn't know that was part of your game, J.O. I wasn't familiar.
Rushing the passer a little bit, yeah.
So that's something might be positive to see.
And which is funny because if you look at the 2 quarterback hurries is like a 5-way tie for second on the team. Dylan Stewart was first with 4, but 5 different dudes had at least 2. I think that's pretty encouraging moving forward. Now with the offense, Lenore Sellers was 2 for 8 with 1 deemed turnover-worthy play and 0 yards while under pressure. That's something this offense must improve on moving forward. Maybe not just a Lenore Sellers thing, but the offense in terms of the play breaking down and facing pressure, improving on as the year goes forward.
I think that stat coincides with the yards after contact. Right? Those 2 things. That means that the line is being breached way too often, whether it's on runs, whether it's on passes. There's too many dudes on the other side of the line as opposed to the line making movement. So that's something that you need to keep an eye on. Again, that's not a number. That's not a narrative. That's a number, and that's what happened last week.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, Brandon Cisse was the only Gamecock to be credited with a forced incompletion. He had 3 of them, 3 forced incompletions. They'll need more of their defensive backs to chip in on that.
Were they targeting him? What do you think was happening there?
Yeah, he was targeted a team high 5 times. Tied for a team high 5 times. Sean Murphy was targeted 5 times too, but those passes significantly closer to the line of scrimmage than Brandon Cisse was.
Yeah, and I don't think that I don't.
It felt like they tried him a little bit.
I don't like the idea of linebackers being targeted as a stat because most of the time that's in zone stuff.
Yes.
And, so
which is we have to take those with a grain of salt.
Yeah, they would just happen to be in the area. Cisse looked like he was being targeted, and yes, the answer is yes. More dudes have to break up more passes because the ball's going to be coming out, especially this week. Next week against Pavia and them boys, it's going to be more plays that need to be made.
Certainly. And I wanted to have a couple more stats in here about running the ball, but I figured we'd save an entire segment for that. So coming up next, Preston and I are going to break down South Carolina's run game and what the running back room looks like, because as Brent Key says, it's time for this Gamecock team to run the ball. That's next here on the Early Game. The running game, essential to what this team wants to do in order to win football games. They told you so by putting it up on that big old decal in the indoor practice facility. They want to run the ball.
Run the ball.
And stop the run. One more time, Brent Key. What do we want to do?
Run the ball.
Oh, that's right.
Heart emojis. My guy.
Oh, I love that guy. It's hard not to love Brent Key. But
Future Alabama coach.
that's what they're saying.
Okay.
That's what the folks are saying on some of the message boards.
Carry on.
That he may be highly coveted. It's amazing what you almost do to Georgia once, and then some other schools in the conference say, we want to do that. We want to almost do that to Georgia, even though Alabama beat them last year. But, that such is college football. But when talking about this running game, I thought the story coming into the season, obviously, was Rasul Faison and his eligibility. Now, there's a good chance Sewell is used a whole lot more than what we saw on Sunday once we get into the season because, let's be honest with ourselves, when you're 6 days away from the season starting and you still don't know if he's going to be cleared to play, you kind of have to prepare some things as a contingency, right? You have to be prepared to not have him, which is probably why I'm not incredibly surprised that Oscar Attaway was the leading rusher and got the lion's share of the carries on Sunday. With Sewell getting 7 carries, that's kind of what I expected. I think my range was maybe like 7 to 12, right? I think 12 might have been max of what we might have gotten from him. So when Mike Shula spoke yesterday, I wanted to kind of to pick his brain on the running game a little bit, starting with the heavy usage of Attaway and why they were able or felt confident in making him kind of the workhorse back on Sunday.
Yeah, he's been probably, and that group's a good group. I'll say that to start with. They worked hard and they played physical. They played really hard the other day, physical. And he's probably been the most consistent throughout, going back to day one of spring ball. And he's got a very, kind of a lunch pail mentality of just, being that steady force, whether or not it's, running the football, catching it, pass protecting. So, you kind of want guys like that. And again, it's not really ever dictated kind of, especially we talked about the running backs last week on how we're going to kind of substitute those guys. It's just kind of the game starts one way, and then sometimes you have certain plays for like Oscar or maybe for Rasul or whoever, Isaiah, whoever. And then and then after that, we just kind of let it go. And the biggest thing for us is, hey, let's stay on the field so they all can kind of get into a groove. But he's been really good. He's been a steadying force.
I thought the interesting thing was the consistency part, right? When you have a running back room of 3 guys that you bring in because you're confident in their ability to be able to carry the ball, Oscar having an advantage of being here last year, hearing that Oscar Attaway was the most consistent in practice, and then hearing some of the other things we've heard about the usage of other players based on practice performance, I think does tell us something about how Oscar has looked in camp and that he earned the right to be able to carry the ball 14 times on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. That means he's earned the right. That means he does things the right way a majority of the time. My question is, though, what is the ceiling to that? Because you can be consistent.
Yes.
But are you consistently a C, whereas everybody's up and down and, things like that? And I get it, and it's fine. To be honest, Oscar should be consistent. He's been playing college football for 20 years.
He's been here for a while.
He should be pretty consistent. My question is, and I think these are the questions we have to ask as you move forward. All right, if you have running backs who are consistent, that's fine. A line that is below consistent, those two things don't match. And that doesn't equal a solid running game. You need to have one or the other. An awesome line and lunch pail running backs, that works. But if you have, or you can have a dynamic running back and an average line, that works.
They can't be below average, though. That's kind of the thing. You can't be below average.
So that's where I think it's going to get interesting. The last part he said is, can you stay on the field enough to get everybody going? And so I'm still very curious. To me, that's not a satisfactory answer as far as the run game is concerned.
Yeah, and we don't have time for it, but he was asked about Lenora Sellers on designed runs, and I think this team is in a position where sometimes your best running option is a designed run with Lenoris, but then they're striking a balance of just not wanting to do that too much in a game because he is so valuable to this team that you kind of have to be strategic in just how he's deployed that way because obviously the more times you carry the ball, the higher risk of injury. But you also have just maybe the best playmaker in the country back there as your quarterback. And trying to figure that out can be tough.
That's a tough one. How do you not use the same thing over and over and over again?
How do you expect carries to be divvied out on Saturday?
I would say turning the dial back on Lenoris as much as possible. I would try and refrain from using that as much as possible just because of the idea, again, it's a football game. Anything can happen. You want to try and bubble wrap him as much as possible.
And when it comes to the running backs, I think we'll still see a lot of Attaway, but I think we'll see more of Faison, and I think we'll actually see some of Augustov because I think you kind of have to. This is the perfect opportunity to see what you have in a couple of those guys, too, maybe a little further down on the running back depth chart. And, of course, I'd like to see a little bit from Jawarn Howell, too, something to monitor once we get to game day on Saturday. Hour 1 is in the books. Hour 2 coming up next. We're going to break down the Week 2 slate. Not as great as Week 1, but there are some bangers. We'll tell you what they are next.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite player will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. This week, I'm taking Jalen Hurts to go higher than 215.5 yards. That's Jalen Hurts to go higher than 215.5 yards. Download the app today and sign up with promo code EARLYGAME to score $50 in bonus funds when you play with your first $5. That's promo code EARLYGAME. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in South Carolina. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS.html for details. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Shop Road at Pineview Road, an accident reported there. Otherwise, for the most part, things moving along fairly smoothly this morning. Sunny today through Saturday. 89 for the high today, 92 tomorrow, 93 for game day. Come Sunday, we might see an isolated thunderstorm. Temperatures start to go down a little bit. 87 for the high, and then we'll be in the low 80s starting next week. So that'll be kind of a nice change as we get into September. Currently 64 on 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we are excited for week 2 of the college football season, which starts tonight. No, tomorrow. Dang, there's no Thursday game. Starts tomorrow.
Yeah, NFL. King NFL. Back off.
I was hoping we'd at least get, like, a MAC Sunbelt challenge or something like that. I convinced myself there was, but Friday we do get James Madison, Louisville.
Could be interesting. Louisville
12.5-point favorites. James Madison's still pretty good.
Maybe a possible underdog pick right there.
Oh man, it may or may not be on my board because the early game underdog challenge is coming up here at the bottom of the hour. We probably might hear that game. Again, that one as of right now, 12.5 for Louisville.
Might be one to keep an eye on.
JMU wins that one. That's a pretty good splash. But there are some other games this week. Clearly not the slate week 1 was, because that might have been the most loaded week 1 slate ever. We may never get 3 top 10 matchups in an opening week to start a college football season ever again. But week 2 does have some games of intrigue, and I kind of want to start with Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech. It's not a top 25 matchup, but it's significant for South Carolina because, A, I think you need the Virginia Tech win to age really well.
Yes.
I don't think you need a blowout either way because even if Virginia Tech blows out Vanderbilt comes here, you still got to take care of business against Vanderbilt, and you would at least like to see that one become a good game where both those teams flirt with getting ranked at some point in the season. You need both of them to end up having as good of years as humanly possible, right? Especially Virginia Tech because they'll have the opportunity in the ACC to be able to have some upward mobility and collect 7 or 8 wins. That was a pretty significant one for South Carolina for that reason. And if you're a fan, which that game's going on at the same time, South Carolina State, if you want to do some back and forth action or do the whole quad box thing on YouTube TV, it's one that's worth to have up there.
That game is intriguing because as a casual, I get to watch that game. I don't know anything about Vanderbilt. I know they have a quarterback and a tight end. That's about it, right? But now I know something about VTech.
Yep.
I know the names. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. That guy, that's the receiver. That's Kyron Jones. All right, cool. So that's going to be a game. Obviously, I can maybe even you can put your advanced scouting metrics on because you can see how Vanderbilt responds to certain things, and you can start throwing in some notes, take some mental notes for the next week. So
you best believe I'll be rewatching that game during the week next week.
That is an intriguing game for South Carolina fans for sure.
That's an intriguing game. If you're looking up and down the slate, too, because this is another one of those, we had so many great games in week 1, and nobody's going to just go back-to-back incredibly tough games to start the season. So you do have a couple of just real snoozers, like Texas has San Jose State. Tennessee's got East Tennessee State. Clemson's got Troy. But one game of intrigue, and this is one we'll all be able to watch because this is at high noon, the battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Iowa at Iowa State this year. Because here's what's interesting about this one, Preston Thorne. Iowa apparently, allegedly, has a quarterback.
Okay.
I say allegedly. Mark Gronowski, I almost want to put the K in there, make him Mark Gronkowski, make him another Gronkowski brother, but he is most definitely not. Didn't have to throw for much in that first game against Albany. They won 34-7. I think he ended up leading the team with 44 passing yards, only threw the ball 15 times. But transfer from South Dakota State, apparently a really good runner. And this is like the first quarterback I think Iowa's had in a few years where they're excited about what they might have on offense in terms of an actual passing game, because that has been non-existent for like a decade now.
Again, you remember the T-shirt in the stands at the Iowa game was punting his offense.
That's their offense.
That was their offense. But they've been freed from the shackles of Brian Ferentz, right? That is That spell has been dispersed, and now they're actually seeing offensive football. And
they're not bottom 10 in FBS anymore with points per game.
They're always going to have a top 20 defense. Count on it, bank it.
As long as Phil Parker is the defensive coordinator, yes. Maybe best coordinator in college football.
You might have to look at that because they're always going to be there, and they're always going to play hard, and they're going to cause turnovers, stubborn against run, all the things you want. They just never had any offense because the coach decided, again, to give his son free reign for the offense. It didn't work. It doesn't work very often. That being said, that's something to look out for because Iowa State building another coach. Hey, Matt Campbell, do you want to come coach Alabama? Keep winning.
Oh, keep winning. I mean, they're 16th in the country. They're 2-0.
Your name will be shooting up the message boards quickly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a consistent winner at a place that isn't a consistent winner.
Right.
And he took them to a Big 12 title game last year. And this year, they started off the season by beating Kansas State, which, talking about wins that have already not aged as well, Kansas State had to scrap and fight their way out of a game against North Dakota. Not North Dakota State, North Dakota. This North Dakota, I think, was 5-7 in FCS last year.
The bad one, not the good
bad one. This is the bad North Dakota.
Not the Trey Lance, Carson Wentz ones.
No.
Not the Bisons, right?
Nope.
The other ones.
Nope. The other ones. And the other school in North Dakota may or may not have put up 35 points in Manhattan, Kansas last Saturday night. However, Iowa State, they took care of business. They didn't have a Dublin hangover. They took care of business against South Dakota, not South Dakota State, but South Dakota in terms of FCS schools on the higher end. They actually are pretty good, but Iowa State beat them 55-7. Rocco Becht is considered one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12. From a football standpoint, yeah, Iowa State at home should win this game, but this is a rivalry game in which a lot of weird stuff happens every year, and I feel like this is one of the consistent games that delivers every single year in terms of at least entertainment value.
Yes.
And unpredictability.
And to your point, this is a fun week as a South Carolina fan because you shouldn't have there's not a lot of pressure.
Nope.
So you can maybe tune in, tune out, look at some other games, check out what's going on. You feel a little bit more relaxed to enjoy some of these games that could get a little wonky because that one does oftentimes do that.
I think the noon slate, that time slot, gets a little wonky because here's a game that's incredibly interesting. In Durham at Wallace Wade Stadium, number 11, Illinois. That's right, number 11, not number 10, because somebody leapfrogged them over the weekend.
That's right. That's right. Take that, Brett.
We've been talking all offseason long about how close Carolina and Illinois have been in every single power ranking, every single poll, but Illinois is always one spot better because of that bleeping bowl game. Not anymore.
Take that.
South Carolina played a real team over the weekend.
We slid in there, and we can do that because Coach Beamer is lean.
Yes.
As is not Brett.
Unfortunately, Big Bert, I don't think, has slid in comfortably many places. I don't think he has.
I'll go grab a saucer of milk now. I know I'm being a little catty.
But it's funny. Caddy Jen is optimal Jen. But imagine how catty Jen can get if Duke ends up beating Illinois at home this weekend. And that's possible. They started off really slow against Elon, but they invested a ton of money in their quarterback, Darian Mensah from Tulane, and he was one of the more underrated quarterback transfer portal gets this offseason. Manny Diaz always dials up a good defense. MTSU graduate. Always dials up a really good defense. Maybe. Illinois is the 3.5-point favorite on the road, but I think Duke tests them a little bit.
I'm not saying this game makes an appearance in the Underdog Challenge.
Oh, it may be on the Preston draft board.
And you may not be the only one.
Just saying it's on the board. We'll see. We'll just say it.
Luckily for Jen, she's got the first pick, so she that might be a little bit of a tease of what we have coming up at 7:30. But that one's interesting too, because if Illinois ends up winning it and they win it convincingly, then it's like then maybe they are Denny Green nationally. They are who we thought they were, right? But if they lose, you're on fraud watch, and then maybe Duke is elevated as a team that maybe is a team that elevates the entire ACC a little bit, right? Because Duke won, 8-9 games last year, but it didn't feel like they won 8 or 9 games because they didn't have to beat a lot of teams that were really good.
Right.
But this is their chance at home against a top 11 team in the country from one of those two power-broking conferences in college football to make a statement. That one can be a lot of fun. The noon slate is well-rounded. That one's going to be on ESPN. So if you're watching College Game Day, it's going to lead into Illinois at Duke. Also be a great basketball game. And then on Fox for Big Noon Kickoff is Iowa at Iowa State. But if you want to watch, I don't know, Ghost Hunters International or Gilmore Girls leading up into your college football game, you're getting a good college football game for it to lead up to, because after your Gilmore Girls rerun, you can watch Baylor at SMU, an Texas State matchup between two offenses that love to throw the ball and two really good quarterbacks with Sawyer Robertson and Kevin Jennings.
Yeah, I'm that's one I have written down. I'm gonna check that out. Dave Aranda in a battle with Boring Billy as the boringest coach in college football, and
Boring Billy.
Boring Billy is up there, but Dave Aranda, woof,
He is absolutely up.
man. So I don't
He's
know.
not a clip machine.
Yeah, I'll check that. I might check that out. Also, I think if the games on the CW have that cool helmet cam, so if that's something you're interested in, they do something pretty weird with their production. It's like a helmet cam. I don't know if it's from the player's helmet or from the referee's helmet, but it's like a back view. If that sells you, maybe. I don't know.
Well, if the Dawson's Creek rerun afterwards doesn't sell you, I don't know what else would.
Supernatural still rolling.
Supernatural, yeah. If that doesn't get you to tune in, I don't know what else will. At 3:30, Ole Miss at Kentucky, our first SEC game of the season. Ole Miss, a 9.5-point favorite on the road. I consider Kentucky to be cooked. However, there is an element of revenge in this game, because really, I think the game you can point to that kept Ole Miss out of the college football playoff was losing at home to a Kentucky team that went 4-8.
Yeah, and you will rarely hear me say this, but I think I'm cheering for Lane Kiffin to run Stoops out the building until we can get this process going about hot seat and coaches. And all. I want that narrative to start now.
They beat Kentucky by like 21 on Saturday.
It starts.
I don't know how far it goes, because that buyout's one of those that you have to pay at once.
Yeah, I was
On3 did a really good study about the buyout, like a detailed breakdown of what Kalen DeBoer's buyout would be, and it wouldn't be as daunting because of how it's structured. Mark Stoops, on the other hand, you're dropping like $60+ million at once. It's a lot of money.
Immediately too. It's like within 48 hours.
But Kentucky would have to live in some serious discomfort if Ole Miss goes in there and just dog walks them. And if you're Lane Kiffin,
I'm cheering for it.
You might not beat the fraud accusations if you lose this game.
Yes, that's true. You lose this game, Lane, then you got to wear that. You might be who they say you are.
Yeah, because now there's a trend. Now you're losing to teams that you should beat, despite having really good rosters year in and year out. Most underrated rivalry in college football, it's one of Kansas at Missouri, 3:30. They should play this every year. There's no excuse that you don't play this football game every single year.
Yeah, I mean, for my history buffs, you might know Kansas and Missouri. Not cool.
They've been rivals for a long time, and isn't just football in which they've been rivals.
Not cool.
They've been rivals over a lot of issues in American history in the past.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing is seeing that kind of play out on Twitter. People still bringing up the 19th century when it comes to Kansas and Missouri.
Yeah, there's long-standing history.
Long-standing stuff there. But even from a football standpoint, watch out for Kansas, man. They're frisky.
This could be an interesting one. This could be another one that may or may not make an appearance on the Underdog Challenge here coming up. So maybe a slight pick that you might want to look at. Eli loses this one. Is he put on any type of alerts, fraud alert? They are who he says he are, or anything like that?
I don't think so. I just think it's going to be one of those things I guess maybe either as a parent, because my parents were like this sometimes, where I'd make them really mad, and they would just tell me, give me like 15 minutes to be mad about this, and I'll be fine.
Okay.
I think Missouri loses to Kansas. It's like, give me a week to be mad about this, and we're fine.
Okay.
Just because they've had so much success the last couple of years.
Gotcha.
I think that's kind of how that would be, but it's that big of a rivalry game. You never want to lose to a rival because they have bragging rights, and I don't know if they play next year. And if they don't play next year, they'll have bragging rights for multiple off seasons. And from a fan base standpoint, that would be a tough pill to swallow if you are Missouri. We'll go take a quick break, and we come back. The NFL season starts today. We'll give you everything you need to know going into the NFL season, which kicks off tonight between the Eagles and Cowboys, next on the Early Game Morning Meeting. For nearly 30 years, Midstate Roofing has continued to be the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And that proven history is your assurance that you will get that proper advice, the service, and most importantly, the results to the needs of your facility. And it's in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation. Look, Midstate Roofing is all about protection of your home from the elements, your business from the elements, and protecting that roof that they provide you with a maintenance contract. So again, 803-356-1919. That's where you can call to go ahead and talk to somebody. If you have to call somebody after hours, if there's an urgent need, you can still speak to an on-call technician. But 803-356-1919, or you can always hit them up online at midstateroofing.com. And if you remember anything from today, it's that if you have a leak, you should let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Shop Road at Pineview Drive, only accident that we're monitoring right now. And the forecast, boy, it's a good one. 89 for the high today. We're going to see sunshine really throughout through Saturday. 92 for the high tomorrow. 93 for game day. And Sunday, then the temperatures changed a little bit. Could see an isolated thunderstorm. 87, then we get into the low 80s for the first part of next week. But starting off your morning, a little bit cooler at 64 on 107.5 The Game.
Tonight, the Philadelphia Eagles will hang a banner at their stadium playing against their hated rival, the Dallas Cowboys, which signals the start of the NFL season. And to get you ready for the NFL season, we'll discuss it a little bit for this morning's morning meeting. More football. Of course it will be. Of course it will, because the NFL starts back tonight. Hope springs eternal for everybody. That's not the New Orleans Saints. For everybody. As our man Nick Harvey enters the studio right now from Team WIS to hang out with us this morning.
Just to jump the point, there's a article in The Athletic about how much optimism each fan base has, graded on 100%. For reference, the Broncos, 99% hoper meter. They feel like they got the coach. They feel like they have the quarterback. They have the scheme. 99%. They are optimistic. The Saints, 92%. The other way.
That sounds about right. But they're not the most pessimistic team in the NFL.
The Colts are the most pessimistic teams. For a reference, Jen, the Bears, 88% optimistic. They're feeling pretty good. New coach. Think they got a quarterback.
Yep. I think it's going to be something close with the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think Jen is part of that 88%.
I am part of that 88%.
Feeling good. For my Falcons fans, rise up. We're split. Almost even, 55-45, 55 optimistic, 45 like, we're still the Falcons. So we'll see how that goes.
That tracks, I guess, what my priors are.
Yeah.
As a Viking fan, Jen, I
what?
In the most polite way possible.
Jen's about to come on the side of the glass.
In the most polite way possible, I hope that it's not close on Monday night. I
want the Bears to just blow out the Vikings.
No.
Ooh, didn't know we had some beef in here. I like it.
Oh, I'm choosing love and peace and love here, not beef.
Well, last year
I'm choosing beef.
That was last year.
Feel
But
free to jump back on the train after week 2.
no, I'm signed for 1 year already. I'm in a 1 year deal right now.
We had a commitment ceremony and everything.
that.
It was
Rise up.
It was a big
It was
ordeal.
pretty amazing, yeah. I do have a really good friend who's a Vikings fan, so, twice a year.
They're not as close friends.
No.
But you said before, though, the Vikings, in terms of like the Bears' hatred meter, just nowhere near as much as
No,
the
it's not like the Packers at all, or even the Lions. No, to me, it's a friendlier rivalry.
To reference the same article, Vikings fans feeling 90% optimistic.
Yeah, I feel pretty good.
Feeling pretty good.
A lot of good returning offensive starters.
Yeah.
I think all the
The offense is
pessimism.
going to be a concern.
Yeah, I think the pessimism comes from J.J. McCarthy at quarterback.
Easily.
But I like J.J. McCarthy.
I do too. That's the reason I jumped on the bandwagon last year.
As long as he stays healthy, I'm okay with it. That's fine.
That's why we got to work on that.
That's right. Jen's like, that's why we hired Greg Williams to be the defensive coordinator now, or defensive analyst.
Yeah.
I don't know where Greg Williams is now, but
Yeah, we need to make sure that we're teaching the defensive line some, karate type moves and
Figure some stuff
take him out. Yeah.
the dark arts, if you will. Now, Jen, are you more optimistic about the Bears being good or pessimistic that the Packers will be really good now they traded for Micah Parsons? Because I think they've grown on me as a Super Bowl contender now.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I don't know. I mean, I'm more optimistic that the Bears will do better. I just feel like there's something coming this season.
Because we had the discussion yesterday where we talked about like teams that were in last place and the chances of going worst to first. If the Bears were in any other division, that would be my pick. I think they got significantly better over the offseason. I love the hire of Ben Johnson. I think Caleb Williams will take a jump in year 2. I know a lot of people are really down on him, but there's a lot of tools there for him to work with. And I love Roma Dunze. I love some of the receivers they have. They've invested at some important parts of that team. But if they played in any other division, I would pick them. But they have to play the Lions twice, the Packers twice, the Vikings twice.
Get a gauge for the audience. Text us in with your team and give us your optimism, pessimism meter. Let us know where you are, because we know we have a lot of fans in the NFLs where we all can commiserate on some different things. So give us your optimism. Out of 100%, how optimistic are you / how pessimistic you are, because I like to get a pretty good gauge. In this article, it was saying that the Packers fans overall were 75% optimistic, 25% pessimistic. However, this was before the trade was made.
Okay, I was going to say, where's the pessimism coming
Yeah, so
from?
this was before. Maybe the pessimism for the Packers might come in Jordan Love staying healthy. I think Jordan Love is very good, but he has to stay healthy. But again, if I go back to coaching quarterback, I think they have a really good coach, and I think Jordan Love can be good if he stays healthy.
Okay, so here's Jay from the Interstate says, Vikings win 7 games. JJ not the answer, and Justin misses at least 4 games. I'm a Cowboys fan. Optimism is 25.
Let's see how that compares
optimistic.
He's more optimistic than the article stated, because for the article, Cowboys fans were 13% optimistic. So, Jay from the Interstate, you're seeing a little sunshine in your eyes.
I'll tell you a Cowboys fan who's not 25 or below pessimistic right now, Rick Henry.
He's all in?
Rick Henry is all in.
Is he
on the
like
Dallas
100%
Cowboys.
right now?
I mean, he literally, like, we had a conversation the other day, and he said, I was a fan before Jerry Jones's reign started with the Cowboys.
Fair.
I will be there until I'm gone. Like, basically, like, he is a ride or die. He doesn't care what people think.
Maybe with the Bears.
He is going
fair.
to root for the
Yep.
Cowboys. That, I mean, I guarantee if you ask him, he'll tell you they could compete for a Super Bowl this year.
I respect the commitment.
That's awesome.
It's unbelievable.
Even if it will borderline into delusion, I
Yeah,
respect
love it.
the commitment. I do. Some Panthers fans have weighed in on the Firehouse Subs text line 803-404-6100. 2 different Panther fans with 2 completely different expectations here. Nameless Luke says, Panthers fan here, was about 75% optimistic for the preseason, about 60% optimistic today.
That is right on par. That is exactly what the article
75,
states.
really? Okay.
No, 60.
Or 60.
60.
Interesting. Well, then we go to Kevin on the text line. Says, Panthers, 0 optimism. I would be happy with 5 wins.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
So we go from 0 to 60.
I'm not sold on the coach, but maybe. I don't know.
I think them moving Adam Thielen tells me they're real comfortable with what they got in that wide receiver room.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
I think that made them comfortable, and they got an asset for it.
Did y'all feel good about getting him back? Or
I was happy about it because you've got a trusted, I mean, he's old, but you got a trusted slot receiver, somebody who you can depend on. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And you really only need to depend on him heavily for, 3 games
No,
for
yeah,
Jordan
exactly.
Addison's suspension?
Right.
That's really the big part of it. Matt C. says, as a Patriots fan, I'm 100% optimistic that they win more games than last year.
you know what? I
Low
think
bar, but I think they do.
That's a fair comparison. The article states that Patriots fans, on the average, are 81% optimistic. I think they should be optimistic that they will be better than they were last year.
They got the coach.
They got the
Got a
coach,
quarterback.
got the quarterback.
I think that tracks.
Wait. We did find out some information in the break. Josh McDaniel is still the offensive coordinator.
Somehow,
And
that guy still has a job in the league.
That is a cause for pessimism, in my opinion.
James on the Firehouse Subs text line says, go Pack go. 85-15 is his split right there. He says, Love and wide receivers need to stay healthy. And then Shannon, 100% Packers, go Pack go. There are a lot of Packers on the
Interesting.
text line.
That's really interesting.
Sorry, Jen.
Wonder how that worked out.
Yeah, popular brand there. Jen's got a little bit of backup because Richard says, Bears fan, 100% optimistic, because even if Caleb Williams doesn't work out, Case Keenum is a perfect quarterback for Ben Johnson's system. Any old Texas Tech quarterback would be elite in this system.
Who was the?
Case Keenum was at Houston.
I'm trying to remember, and Jen, you might know the backup quarterback. I'm trying to think of the preseason game. It might have been against the Bills that they played the guy. I can't think of his name now off the top of my head. Came in after like the first 2 drives and had like just ripped apart the Bills defense during the preseason. Did that guy not make the 53 roster? Because
He signed. Excuse me. Is it Tyson?
Bagent?
yes.
Bagent? Yeah, he signed a contract extension. I don't know whether he's going to be 2 or 3, but I was
better be
interested in.
2.
I wonder if he's going to. I wonder if he's going to be QB2. Yeah, they saw that he came from. He had a really cool story. Also, that was really cool. So maybe that's something to look at.
Yeah, they certainly paying him to be the backup
Yeah,
quarterback.
they signed him to a pretty healthy extension, right?
Yeah, they did. And we'll go take a quick break because when we come back, no more time to wait. It's the early game Underdog Challenge featuring NFL games. That's next. Look, sometimes your carpets will just have stains that just appear. You don't know how they got there. They just appear. That happens. That's part of carpet ownership. But now's the time to give your carpets a clean slate. And you can do it the safe way with that deep and lasting clean of Zero Res. And right now, this month, the month of September, the more you clean, the more you can save. 3 rooms for $119, 4 rooms for $144, and 5 for just $169. Save up to $30 and schedule with Zero Res today because their patented cleaning process from Zero Res uses no harsh chemicals, so it's a clean safe for your family and your pets. Safe, clean. I can't speak today. And that's something that everybody wants. That's one thing I can tell you with full-on confidence. Zero residue behind, hence the Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. Take advantage of their deals today by scheduling online at ZeroResColumbia.com.
I-26 eastbound, just after exit 129, the right lane is blocked due to a disabled vehicle. So stay left if you're approaching exit 129 on I-26 eastbound. Also on I-26 eastbound, Piney Grove Road, an accident there. Also Shop Road at Pineview Drive, work in progress. 89 for the high today, 92 tomorrow, 93 on Saturday. Sunny all those days. maybe some isolated thunderstorms on Sunday before we drop into the low 80s, but 64 currently on 107.5 The Game.
It's one of my favorite segments. It's the early game Underdog Challenge, and you can participate too. 803-404-6100. Still working the prize. The prize last week was James Taylor tickets, and Sammy won. Now, for this, last week you put in 2 games, and they're both college games because that's the only games that were on. There were no NFL games. You'll text your 2 underdogs and the point spreads to 803-404-6100. 1 college, 1 NFL. And if your team wins outright, you get the points for whatever the point spread was. Like tonight, Cowboys-Eagles. Cowboys are 8.5-point underdogs. If they beat the Eagles and you pick the Cowboys as your pro game, you will get 8.5 points. Last week, our winner, Sammy, shout out to Sammy, won and only put in 1 game. He only submitted 1 game. It was Florida State, Alabama. That was 13.5 points. He only needed the 13.5 points to beat the 2 second-place finishers who finished with 6.5, thanks to South Florida beating Boise State. So congratulations, Sammy. Sammy is going to Simpsonville on Monday night to see James Taylor in concert. So without further ado, a recap from last week, and it's pretty simple. Goose eggs across the boards. It looks like Krispy Kreme here with so many donuts on my spreadsheet right now because we all went 0-2. That was our week 1-iness. We got that out of the way. Time for week 2. This week, Jen will lead us off, followed by Preston, myself, and then Nick with Team WIS, and they will get the first NFL picks. The first round is college, second round NFL. So, Jen, without further ado, kick us off, your college game.
Dun, dun, dun. Duke.
Jen's taking Duke.
I had to.
She had to.
It's a family thing, if nothing else. I'm going against going against some of the family.
She alluded to it earlier in this hour when we were talking
Preston.
about Illinois and Duke. Okay. Duke, 3.5-point home dogs against the Fighting Illini. So that game is officially off the board. That brings us now to Preston Thorne.
Well, I'm going to keep this hate train rolling.
Love it.
Give me them 49ers.
49ers, NFL second round.
No.
Oh, the Charlotte 49ers. Oh, pump fake. Pump fake.
Give me the Charlotte 49ers.
Oh, man.
UNC, Bill Belichick, it's going to go bad.
I forget they're the 49ers.
That's correct.
I just forget. I forget.
That's correct.
Charlotte at 13.5 against Chapel Bill. Honestly, real smart. Home dogs, I think, are the way to go in this thing. Because that's where you see a lot of the unexpected stuff. I like that. 13.5 is a pretty good chunk. So Preston's got Charlotte.
Actually, and I did hear some rumor about, North Carolina, they're maybe changing their name to the Gold Diggers or something. Maybe not.
Jordan Hudson is definitely getting that trademarked. So
that is a fact.
Yes, she is, I know.
They could do that.
Yep.
They
she could
make
give permission.
That's right. If she's got the trademark, I mean, you can you can monetize that in any way you want. Now it's to me, and I've been thinking about this one all week because I normally wouldn't take a game like this, but it's early in the season. It's a tough offense to prepare for. It's a home underdog, and there's a whole lot of cowbell. Give me Mississippi State at 6.5 to beat defending Big 12 champion Arizona State. That game was really close last year in Tempe. It might change this year. A lot of weird stuff happens, and Mississippi State in that second half against Southern Miss finally got it together a little bit. They ran the ball really well. They did what they were supposed to against a G6 opponent, unlike Kentucky. Kentucky won, but barely. So give me Mississippi State to pull off the shocker this week for 6.5.
What is it? It's Stark Vegas, right?
Stark Vegas.
Yeah. Team WIS consulted last night. We came to a consensus on 2 teams and we made a final decision.
This is so official.
Can't believe we got through without this getting picked. Kansas plus 6.5 versus Missouri.
Yes, good call.
I want to see
call.
Eli Drinkwitz in sorrows. I hate to say it, but
true.
that's how I feel.
That's a good pick.
That's very likely too. We talked about how big of a rivalry game that is earlier in the show.
Long-standing beef.
Historically, historic beef between these two states specifically. They even share a big city. How about that? How nice of them for two states that hate
Long-standing
each other.
beef, long-standing corn.
Even longer standing corn. Corn's been there
Taller.
forever. Yes. So Kansas, Missouri. That was the second one on my list. Was Kansas, Missouri. So if I was like, if it falls to me, I might take it if Mississippi State was off the board. So that does it for the college games. Now we'll start the NFL slate, and we'll do so starting with Team WIS.
Team WIS is taking the Dallas Cowboys plus 8.5 versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
And it doesn't sound like one Nick Harvey was excited about taking this one.
I'll say it that I like the fact that it is a big spread. But as I mentioned when I first got on here, Rick Henry is the biggest Dallas Cowboys fan I know. And when I told him we had the first pick, it was pretty much decided then and there who we were taking. The spread when I think we first looked at it, it was 6.5. It's grown 2 points. That's a little frightening. But you just gotta, I guess, cross those fingers for some week one-iness out of the Philadelphia Eagles.
I think, and there can be. I mean, they are hanging a banner. There can be some distractions. So the Cowboys at 8.5 are off the board. I'm going to go with an 8.5 pointer as well, because the Titans are picked to finish last in that division.
Good call.
I like the Broncos, but there can definitely be some week one-iness. Give me an 8.5 pointer in the NFL with the Titans beating the Broncos, because I, for one, believe in that offensive line. I believe in Cam Ward. So that brings us back to Preston.
First pick, first year.
I knew it.
Let's go with my boys. Rise up. Give me the Falcons over the Bucks.
Took that out of my hands.
Falcons at plus 1.5 against the Buccaneers. That one in Tampa? I forget. That one's in Atlanta. Home dogs. Despite the Falcons being birds, they are home dogs against the Buccaneers. Now that leads us to Jen to round us out.
You know, we talked about it before, and I just got to kind of go with the home thing, the family thing, I'm going to say the Bears over the Vikings.
Ooh, the Monday night finale of week one. Jen.
It's, plus 1.5. Like, odds makers are thinking it could be close.
It can be close. And somebody's got to get on the board here. We all went over last week. Somebody has to get on the board for this to be able to work. Is that game in Minnesota or Chicago?
Chicago.
It is in home dogs too.
That's kind of what's given me that little bit of an edge.
Chicago dogs.
So feel yum. I could go for one right now.
Ooh, it does say Portillo's sounds fantastic.
Oh,
right about
man.
now.
Give it a...
It's going to start making me hungry. Mm-hmm. I like it. 803-404-6100 on the Firehouse Subs text line. I will be taking submissions up until 9 o'clock. As soon as 9 o'clock hits and we are off the air, I will no longer take your submissions. If you submit your picks after 9 o'clock, I am sorry. You just missed the deadline, but you can participate as well. Again, on the Firehouse Subs text line, just text a college underdog and an NFL underdog, and I will lock in your picks. I will confirm with you through that text line that I'll be locking in your picks for a prize this week. We'll take a quick break, and we come back. It's Preston or Reston NFL edition as week one kicks off tonight. That's next.
Preston here for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standard of sales, service, and retail. And they're proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's got you covered. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
Elijah Campbell here to tell you about my friends over at the Ecton Law Firm, and they're a group you might want to give a call if tax issues are weighing you down. If it's something you're not comfortable talking about, but it's something that is bothering you, you can always get a free consultation from the team over at the Ecton Law Firm, 803-771-9800, where their local team has been resolving income or business tax issues for good, and they've been doing so for a long time because they understand at Ecton Law Firm the challenges that you or your business can face, and that's why John Ecton and his team are perfectly qualified to offer you the peace of mind that you know you deserve, because their proven local solutions have helped thousands of families and businesses locally escape that pesky IRS maze. So you can take the first step today for a worry-free life. 803-771-9800, or you can always visit ectonlawfirm.com. That's ECTONlawfirm.com. Preston, you ready to play a game? I'm going to channel my inner Jigsaw here. Would you like to play a game?
Let's go.
And usually when Jigsaw asks that, just like I do, I'm not asking, I'm more so telling. It is Preston or Reston, NFL Week 1 edition. So we'll start with this one. Preston or Reston. The Philadelphia Eagles, who are hanging their banner tonight, kicking off their season against the Dallas Cowboys, will not win the NFC East.
Ooh. Reston.
Okay.
I think they will. Solid running game. Now, here's where we go. Coach, quarterback. I don't believe in the coach. I
Still don't believe in Sirianni.
Kinda don't believe in the quarterback either. I think he's very good for what the team needs from him.
Yes.
I don't know if he's the guy that can win them a game, but I do believe in a running game. You know that about me.
Yes.
So with the defense and all the above, I'll take him.
Applying your principle to the Manders, coach quarterback, how does that compare to the Eagles with Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn calling the shots?
I like Dan Quinn a lot. I'm starting to come around on Jaden Daniels. Somehow this guy has been awesome for several years in a row now.
Unless Herm Edwards is coaching it.
Yeah, and I just kind of started paying him attention. At the end of last year, I was like, huh? Oh, yeah, wait. Oh, he did win the Heisman. Oh, and now he's going to be Rookie of the Year. I guess he's good.
Oh, and he did go to Detroit and win a playoff game in his first career playoff game.
I think that the
Road
window,
win, I
I'd say the window for the Commanders is open right now.
Yeah, I think it is very open. in
And
terms of open
underrated,
windows.
Cliff as an OC, cool.
As a head coach, don't love it. But I love what Cliff Kingsbury does as an OC. That's one of those guys, an incredible coordinator. You can do without as a head coach.
The opposite of the anti-Josh McDaniels. I don't think he's good at anything.
Right, but still somehow has jobs in the NFL as a coordinator.
He's good
or
at
head
getting
coach.
jobs.
Yeah, must interview really well. Or Tom Brady, the Tom Brady recommendation probably goes really far.
Right.
I think Tom's probably made some calls for him. Preston or Reston, this is finally the year Lamar and the Ravens get to a Super Bowl.
I'll take the field.
You'll take the field?
Reston. I'll take the field, man. It's still they can be very good. They can be awesome. They can be amazing. It's still to get over that hump. I don't know if I can still take them over Mahomes. You still got the Bills hanging out there. I would like to see it happen. I really would, but I don't know.
Now, here's my thing. I'm going to make the same mistake again this year. Have you ever seen the meme? It's Maxine from Arthur, where she's standing in front of a door and she goes, "This sign can't stop me because I can't read." That's me when it comes to picking the Baltimore Ravens to win the Super Bowl the last couple of years.
Again and again, run it back.
This is the last time. This is the last time for me. This is the last time.
Going back to, I really like them. I like Harbaugh. I like Lamar. They have a strong tight end game. They run the ball.
Most
everything
unstoppable
I love.
RPO in football.
Everything I love, but man, it just feels like when Lamar, when he gets into the playoffs, he tries to do a little bit too much.
He's got to learn eventually, right? He's got to learn eventually.
I hope so, because I really do like him as a player, and I like the whole franchise.
Preston or Reston, the 49ers get back into the playoffs.
Reston. I think they're all cooked.
The Niners are cooked. That window slammed shut.
I think it's done. They were fun, but I don't know what.
I think there's potential. I'm not completely closing the door on him.
I don't know, man. I just think Shanahan's great. He's awesome. I'm not convinced all the way on Brock Purdy. George Kittle, I love. It just doesn't feel like that's going to happen, though.
All right, Preston or Reston. The Micah Parsons trade wins the Packers the division this year.
Ooh.
In what is probably the most fun division in football. That one and the AFC West are the two that...
In the name of peace and love, I'm going to say Reston for both my friends here.
I could feel Jen Jensen.
I'm going to say Reston. In the name of peace and love between my Bears and Vikings friends here, I'm going to say Reston.
Good. You just bought yourself another day of life.
I say, because I do have the Nerf gun loaded and ready.
It's loaded and ready back there, which we do have in the studio, and I could see Jen holding on to it and getting ready to use it if she had to.
Like I said, in the name of peace and love, I'll say Reston.
In the name of chaos, I think they do it.
Okay.
I think they do it.
Okay.
That Nerf gun's going to be pointed at me instead. I will not survive this day of the early game because I'm in on the Packers.
Those small Nerf guns with the pull tabs on them, those things are powerful.
They do pack a little more of a punch
than the ones that you like trigger action with.
I'm going to need this music bed to go a little longer because I'm afraid what's going to happen. She's in the studio right now. We have fire
coming in hot.
I am not going to survive the rest of this morning. Hour number 2 of the early game has concluded. Hour number 3 comes up next.
Highway 262 near Veterans Road, an accident also I-20 eastbound at Bush River Road and at Piney Grove Road. So different sides of the interstate, I-20 eastbound at Bush River Road, I-26 eastbound, she should say, at Piney Grove, and then I-26 eastbound at I-20, Two Notch Road near Brickyard. And like we mentioned before, the forecast looking pretty nice. 89 today, 92 and 93 tomorrow and Saturday before we get into the 80s with maybe some rain on Sunday. 65 right now.
Hour number 3 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. Nick Harvey from Team WIS in the studio with us, here to kick off the third and final hour of today's show. We heard a lot from Mike Shula and Clayton White, the offensive and defensive coordinators for the South Carolina Gamecocks, in the first hour of the show. But there's a third phase of football that shined on Sunday. That was the special teams unit. Joe DeCamillis' bunch had a fantastic day with a couple players making their college debuts. Mason Love at punter had a brand new kicker as well. William Joyce, 1 for 1, 27-yarder, but he drilled it, 1 for 1. And, oh, yeah, you ran a punt back for a touchdown. Joe DeCamillis spoke yesterday as well, and I think the one thing that people wanted to ask him, and it was a shoe-in for the first question, was the fundamentals on the blocking of that punt return, because there were no flags on the field. Nobody laid out somebody trying to make a highlight block. Maybe one of the more fundamentally sound punt returns you will see. This is cut 28. This is Joe DeCamillis talking about those punt return fundamentals.
No question. It's something we call them finishing techniques, and you know, those guys did a good job of executing it right there. Obviously, getting the punt that we got helps. You know, anytime you get one of those longer balls, you get a chance to get a return like that. A lot of times in college, that's one of the things that you don't see a lot of returns in college football, in my opinion, is because the punting probably isn't quite as good as it is at the next level. And, you know, to be able to get a punt like that, we cashed in, which is great, and it helped us win the game.
It definitely helped them win the game, because it was a 10-8 slugfest at that point in time. That's the play you look at as the turning point. That's kind of the role special teams plays in football sometimes. It can act as a turning point. Case in point, even going back and watching South Carolina State opener against Wofford, the only reason Wofford was in that game was because of a kickoff return for a touchdown, a block punt that was returned for a touchdown, and a safety that was set up because Wofford pinned the Bulldogs inside their own 2. That was their only scoring in the game, and they had a lead going into the final drive.
Yeah, and what did they have the free kick after the safety? Did they drop punt? How did they kick that off?
They dropped it.
You got to work on everything. I never heard it referred to as a finishing technique, so that's really cool to see the evolution of the game as far as those blocks are concerned. Because I'm here to tell you, there was a time in football when those exact plays were coming. They used to call them crackback blocks, kill shots, whatever you want to call them. And buddy, oh buddy, there would have been some decleating happening. But I think the game is better, safer, and you can still get the same effects without those things happening. So that was a great job out of him.
Going back to that SC State game really quick, I'm pretty sure you talked about how important special teams was. I think, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I remember this correctly, Wofford missed 2 field goals to take the lead at the end of the game.
They missed 4 in the game.
4 total, but I think it was like
4 total field goals. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, special teams can.
Special teams was the reason they were in the game. It's also the reason they lost the game at the same time. It's amazing how that can happen. And you see those examples all over the place. And a lot of what makes a good special teams coordinator isn't a lot of the fun trick plays your special teams runs, which we saw a lot when Pete Lembo was here as a special teams coordinator, but it's a lot of just the fundamental stuff too. And I think it was Jaron Willis and David Busey who had the 2 blocks where they basically boxed out guys. Like it wasn't even like a traditional block where you're extending arms, but they had their hands out. I think Busey had his back to the guy he was blocking.
Yeah, it was sort of like a box out shield technique. It was really cool to see.
Yeah.
And you could tell it was coached.
He got into his Dennis Rodman game a little bit, but it is what fueled that return. And of course, Vakari Swain did a lot of magic with the ball in his hands too. A good cut here and there, and was able to fight through a tackle into the end zone as he dove into it. A real turning point in the game, and I thought that was one of those plays we'll look back on later in the year and say that was one of the more important plays the South Carolina Gamecocks had in 2025.
Shout out to the old South Point Stallions who on the first punt of every game would set up a wall, and they would just decleat, clip. You just see people flying in the air, and after that first punt, your team would be scared to field the punt, and then they would usually get a punt return after that because your players were so nervous that they were going to get their head taken off. They would take 15 easy. We'll take 15 on this one, and then later it'll come back to play. So shout out to South Point. I believe that was a strategy that they had.
That's like any classic like war movie. You know, they have that one slow motion scene where there's a bunch of explosions.
That's exactly what it used to look like.
And the guy just emerges from the smoke. That's what I imagine that to be.
That's exactly how it looked. You just see feet flying in the air, flags. It'd be 3 different clips on one play. But they knew that your players would be nervous after that one, and then they'd take it to the house. But we don't have that in the game anymore, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, for the best. But that is now considered a fun relic of football past.
Yes.
But the special teams making a big impact too, not just from the punt return, but also you were sound everywhere else. Again, William Joyce in his first career game had a 27-yard field goal, nailed it. Didn't have to kick from too far. And you only kicked the field goal because of the ridiculous overturn of the Nick Harbor should-be touchdown late in the game. But you were able to kick that field goal and feel confident about it. And from a punting standpoint, now, I think what Joe did, and we'll hear the clip here in just a second, was confirm my priors. The first 2 punts from Mason Love went off his foot a little funny, but got some really fortuitous bounces that were able to at least pin Virginia Tech back a little bit. I thought they won the field position game overall pretty well. And here's Joe DeCamillis talking about Mason Love's debut. I asked him yesterday about what he thought of Mason Love's punting in the opener against Virginia Tech. This will be cut 29.
I think it was okay. You know, I think I'm expecting more from him just because I've seen him punt the way he's capable of punting all the time. He got lucky on a few of them, to be honest with you. You know, some bouncers that ended up going our way. I think he would tell you that too. But you know, he's worked at it, and I think he's going to be on his way to being a really, really good punter, to be honest with you. But you know, let's not go crazy. It's the first game of the year, and you know, nobody gets any trophies after that and all that kind of stuff. So we got a long way to go and a lot of work to do in front of us.
Now, I think that's the one positive is even if he didn't hit it off his foot as well as you wanted, you got some good bounces and you were able to cover the punts really well. And I think hearing Joe say that we see what he does in practice, and that's why our standard for him is a little bit higher, is pretty positive moving forward for a player who's playing his first full season in college football.
And you can hear Joe D's NFL-ness coming out of him because it's less beating around the bush and just like, hey, man, you got lucky. We're going to need to do better than that the next time. And I appreciate that. That's just NFL dudes are straight to the point. We don't have time to play around with your feelings.
Yeah, he was affiliated with the Shield for 30 years, longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
So he's definitely got that in him. But maybe the highlight from the punting game didn't just come from Mason Love. Now, the punt that we're about to allude to, he did really put a boot into. And there was some great hang time to it. But, buddy, when you have Nick Harbor as a gunner and you put any type of hang time on a kick and you let that man run free straight to a punt returner, an explosion is waiting to happen, ripe to happen. And Nick Harbor absolutely lit up a Virginia Tech punt returner on Sunday. Coach DeCamillis was asked about that. This will be cut 31, about if it's unfair having Nick Harbor on your team, not just as a wide receiver, but as a gunner as well.
Yeah, I kind of was thinking about comps that I've seen, like places that I've been before. When you watch the kid at Ole Miss, the Metcalf kid, that's kind of the best comp I can think about because he was covering punts for Ole Miss during that time. I remember everybody talking about him, hey, man, this guy's going to be a great gunner in the league, and that was maybe 1 or 2 times, and then that was it, But, Yeah, it's nice to have. The thing that is great, I think, about it is Nick's commitment to it. Like, there's plenty of times in that game, I mean, he runs a post, he does all that stuff, and he could have begged off him, and he went in every rep. So that's a credit to him, in my opinion. I was really pleased with the coverage part of it in the game, both punt coverage-wise and kickoff coverage-wise. Like, I thought we did some really good things from that standpoint, and hope we can continue to do that, because to me, that's what it's all about, is changing field position from a coverage standpoint more than anything else. Those returns are great, but you're not going to get those all the time, but you are going to be able to cover and try to change field position that way every time.
Yeah. Not fair to have that freak athlete not just catch passes for you, but get a free run at the other team's punt return.
Yeah, and as I said before, you may not have many wide receiver ones covering punts, wanting to cover punts. Wide receivers notoriously known for being all about themselves, right?
That's wanting the football.
Right. They want the ball. They want nothing else. And so for that guy to be wanting to be on special teams, wanting to put in that amount of effort on special teams, really says a lot about him and a lot about the special teams culture that the team has.
Nick, you saw that hit that Nick Harbor laid on the poor Virginia Tech punt returner. Grade out the tackling for him, too, because it's one thing to just be on special teams and just use your speed to fly around the field. It's another thing to absolutely deck somebody.
I mean, honestly, it looked like shoulder to chest. Like, it was a pretty good form tackle. Like, put the guy on special teams anywhere. Kick return, kick off, I don't care. Like, it seems like you've got somebody who's not only a weapon at wide receiver, but a lot of fun to watch on any sort of special teams. That was incredible. I was excited when I was watching it. I did think it was funny, just a real quick side note, that DeCamillis just referred to DK Metcalf as the Metcalf kid. That just shows you how long he's been in the league. I caught that like right off the rip, and I was like, he just referred to DK Metcalf as
the Metcalf kid.
That kid.
That kid, yeah.
That kid at Ole Miss.
Surprised he didn't call him by his number that he wore. Like, we were scouting, 17. He was pretty good.
But the funny thing about Nick Harbor, too, is that when he was in high school, and we mentioned this so many times throughout the last 3 years since he's been on the team, didn't play really any wide receiver in high school, right? He was listed as an athlete. He did play a lot of defense in high school. So there's really, when you just look at his overall skill set, what he came to South Carolina with, he came to South Carolina as somebody, good form tackler, somebody who has experience taking guys to the ground. And I think that's probably one of those things that helps. And their utilization with him in special teams, it makes them look a lot smarter, being able to utilize the skills that he at least came to Carolina with, along with building the skills that he's been able to develop as a wide receiver.
And on top of that, he had offensive plays that he was making. And so when you make plays on offense, it carries over to special teams. Those things happen. And what you want to see is, let's say if he's not making plays on offense, maybe he gets something going on special teams, and that carries over, right? So you can have those things starting to work together, so you're not pigeonholed into just playing one side of the ball and you get to moping about something not happening for yourself, especially on offense as a wide receiver, because you might not get the ball. And, you might,
that you might not.
You can go out there and make a play on special teams, because I believe he's on kickoff return also.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of opportunities for him to make plays out there.
I think the big thing, too, is doing all of this bouncing back from that drop in the first half. Because, it was a pretty bad drop. Ball hit him in the hands. He had plenty of green grass ahead of him to be able to make plays. A lot of guys at the college level don't really recover mentally from that throughout the course of a game.
He said he wouldn't have last year.
Exactly.
He said that.
After the game, he said that's something he normally wouldn't come back from. And I think maybe one of the reasons that he's able to emotionally get himself back in the game is making a play on special teams. And then you saw after that play is when they connected on that 64-yard bomb to really seal the deal later in the game. And it's kind of like a basketball player, right? If you miss your first 5 or 6 shots, but you see one go in, maybe that sparks you a little bit to shoot a little more freely later on, because you did finally see something go in, and it builds your confidence up a little bit.
And not only having one way to affect the game. That's good for the team, and that's also good for you.
Yes. It's good for all of us, too? Coaching beef. Because we got it. Oh, we got it. You thought the coaching beef between Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney ended after the football game, even though Brian Kelly called Clemson Death Valley Jr. in the weeks leading up to the game? You think we would just bury the hatchet after we finally settled things on the field? If you thought that, you were wrong. That would be an incorrect assumption, and we will tell you how this beef has started cooking a little more after the final whistle, coming up next here on the early game. "30 years. It's a long time," which means for nearly 30 years, Midstate Roofing, being a leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, is incredible longevity, and they're still around, better than ever, giving you a protective guarantee that they will keep your operation dry and running long into the future, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like a good offensive line, Midstate Roofing is all about protection of your home or business, and they further that commitment to protection by reminding you that you can protect your roof with a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. And the best part, too, if you have a need to your facility that requires more urgent attention and it's after hours, you can still talk to an on-call technician for Midstate Roofing. 803-356-1919. And always, you can hit them up online at midstateroofing.com. And remember, if you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek. Not necessarily bringing sexy back, because I don't think that's how we would describe a spat between Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney. But we are certainly bringing the beef back to coaches in college football. There was a little bit of it before these two teams kicked their season off in the upstate last weekend. But if you thought that the beef was just limited to pregame shenanigans and trash talk, you would be incorrect.
This is so funny because I wouldn't. Both of these coaches could be highly unlikable by the rest of the country, and so for the rest of the country to watch the beef play out between these two, I think everybody else is watching like, okay, come on,
Fight.
Exactly.
Fight.
Everybody's circling around in the cafeteria like, oh, this is happening. And so I think we have our clip here where we hear the context of it. We hear William Christopher Swinney first, and then we hear Brian Kelly's rebuttal.
That is a physical group. It's a very smart quarterback, and that is a back. So they're going to be a problem. And they got some explosive dudes, and it was a hell of a game. It was a hell of a game. Down to the last play, right out of the gate. It's like getting the final exam day one of class. They made a 65, we made a 58. Neither one of us were great.
We dominated him in the second half. So he's either a really good grader for, giving himself a 58, or he's a really hard grader on us, or he didn't see the second half, which that might be the case. He might not have wanted to see the second half.
Fight. Oh, I love that. I love
when Brian Kelly says that, everybody says, ooh. I don't know, man. I thought this was good. I think Dabo was trying to be as complimentary as possible, and he kind of got shanked. I don't think Brian Kelly was playing by the rules just now.
I don't think Dabo landed the complimentary plane very well.
Right.
I think he was flying it where he wanted to fly it, and then nose dove straight into the ground.
That felt like Dabo, sort of shoved Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly just smacked him in the back of the head. Like, no, hey, that's enough out of you.
Hey, man, you win, you get the right to do that.
You do. One of my favorite stories I ever wrote when I was in college was about a fight between Tennessee Tech and MTSU's basketball teams in the 80s and 90s, late 80s and 90s, because they got in multiple fights. Mm-hmm. And the second fight being nationally televised and significantly worse. And one of the best quotes I got from it was one of the coaches on the staff from those teams say, well, they responded to a bee sting with an atom bomb. And that's kind of what it felt like hearing Brian Kelly say that to Dabo Swinney.
I like it, man. I'm always on here talking about coaches are boring and they don't say anything and they're milquetoast. This is great. I love it. Bring it on. Bring some more. Dabo was on a heater. He gave one of his signature press conferences after a loss. He's going to go into it. He was doing his whole thing. Brian Kelly got him back. He had the last word, and they won the game. So you can't say anything, can't really say much.
And on a scale of 1 to 10 on the is he wrong, though, where is Dabo Swinney on his grading scale of how both of those teams played? I don't think he's terribly far off because there was more I would have liked to have seen from LSU offensively. But if you think about it, too, they could have put up 24 points. They should have because of a certain ruling. But I wouldn't have given a 65. I think I maybe would have given LSU like a 75 and Clemson maybe a 58.
Okay, well let me ask you this then. If we're doing grading and scales of things of that nature, who's the one that would get the report card that says that has potential? Did LSU max out their potential in that game, or was Clemson close to their potential? I guess that's a question that I have finishing that at the end of that.
Yeah, I think LSU is closer to maybe maxing it out, and I know that's not completely maxing it out because I think they have more offensively that they work with. I mean, outside of the overturned pass, Berrien Brown wasn't involved in the passing game a ton. Now, I think you saw a lot from some of the weapons that LSU had, but they also had a turnover deep in the red zone, too, at the very end of the half where Bauer Sharp fumbles a football. And Bauer Sharp's a player that they got from Oklahoma at tight end that I expect them to use pretty frequently in the pass game, but you didn't see a lot of Nick Anderson. You saw a lot of Aaron Anderson, who was great in that game, but you didn't see a lot of Nick Anderson, another Oklahoma transfer they got at wide receiver. Didn't see a ton of him. There were weapons in the pass game that I think LSU didn't utilize a ton, but defensively, you saw what LSU's potential is because they finally figured out a way to get Harold Perkins on a football field and maximize what it is that guy does best, and that's be the best athlete and most explosive player on the field.
So let's put a pin in this one, right? Because with our new advent of the CFP, this could happen again.
It very well could.
Right? And so this could be something that's building. This could be a narrative that builds over the year. Maybe one gets the 6 seed, 12 seed or something. Like this could be something that's really fun. 1 and 12, who knows? So just put a pin in this.
We talked about that on our show, Palmetto Sports Daily, the other day, and our anchor from Greenville is basically like, he had some points to the effect of, Dabo is right in some sense, and then our anchor from Charleston, because it's got all 4 of the state's news anchors and our stations who are owned by that do the show. Our anchor from Charleston basically says, look, you're past it now. The game's over. I feel like there shouldn't be this kind of beef because, like you just said, there's a chance they see each other again in January, but that's it. Like, unless they see each other, a couple years down the road, whatever, it just felt a little bit like there was too much history being carried from Brian Kelly's Notre Dame days where he could not get a win in Clemson or in South Bend against the Tigers.
And in some instances, wasn't close.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
In some instances, it was not particularly close. But here's the beauty of this, guys. I want to say they start next year, kicking the season off in what is now the real Death Valley because LSU won the game.
That's right.
That was the parameters we set before the show. The winner gets to be the real Death Valley. So they get to play that game and what we now get to dub as the real Death Valley to start next season. So they will see each other in less than a year, at least, at minimum.
It just boils down to, I think, and I'm putting words in his mouth, Brian Kelly just doesn't respect Dabo. I think that's what it boils down to. And he's been beating him all this time, and he looks at Dabo doing the dancing and running down the hill, and Brian Kelly's like, this guy's not a real football coach, man. I'm a real football coach.
I'm sick of this guy. He said, I'm sick of this guy.
So he finally got up on him, and now he can just kind of poke his chest out a little bit. Hey, listen, I'm here for it.
It's like if these two guys were kids fighting and one is always kicking the other's tail and then the other one finally gets one on them. It doesn't matter how many times you had your tail kicked before. You won right now. I'll quote Lauryn Hill. You might win some, but you just lost one, and you just lost one to me. So now I get to take the victory lap over you.
I only feel that it's unfortunate that Dabo spoke first and said what he had to say to give Brian Kelly the chance to rebuttal going into his press conference, and then Dabo didn't get to respond.
Right.
It was definitely a slow pitch that he hit out of the park, but would Dabo respond? I don't think we'll ever know.
And I'm gonna be very honest. In a war of words, I'll take Dabo every time.
Easily.
Right?
Yep.
And that man can talk.
He can talk. He has mastered it.
So yeah, in a war, I will also say this. Don't think this is over. I think Dabo might address this again at some point.
Oh, it's going to be addressed.
I hope he does. I'm here for it.
Well, especially if LSU loses a game that they're not supposed to.
How about that grade?
Yeah, how about that grade? Or let's say, it's a week where Clemson beats an ACC opponent that they're supposed to beat, which they will be favored in every single game in conference play this year. And let's say LSU loses to, Florida at home, a game they're going to be favored in. And Dabo can easily say, hey, look, we took care of business, unlike some teams that had conference opponents at home and didn't take care of business.
You can bank on it. This will be addressed in some fashion or form throughout the season.
And it might be subliminal, like in Jay-Z's Takeover. A lot of the diss is very subliminal, very subtle. Or it could also be very blatant, like Nas's Ether.
Turning this into the beef package.
I like it.
The beef package. We had the meat package last week. Now we have the beef package between Dabo and Brian Kelly. We'll keep a pin in this, and we'll keep monitoring this the rest of the season because we have a chance for a little bit of evolution there. But we'll take a quick break. Our man Josh Harris is going to join us on the other side. We had a race in Darlington, and we continue the NASCAR playoffs, and we'll also continue the Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge. That's next on the early game. Now, Dabo and Brian Kelly might be beefing, but I will never beef with Michael Geddes and my friends over at Pro Swing because that is such a cool facility over in Forest Acres, and there's also one in Chapin as well. Pro Swing's got so much to offer, right? on the surface, you have the Golf Zone simulators, which is really cool. You can rent by the hour, and memberships are still available. You can book online or call to reserve at 803-592-3916 or to book online at proswingcolumbia.com. You can also get a free, I said free, 30-minute swing evaluation in which can give you a blueprint of your swing and a couple of pointers and drills to work on. Unfortunately for me, they might need more than 30 minutes. It might have to be like 30 hours. But for some, it can help you out immensely. Lesson packages are also still available for beginners to scratch golfers and even from kids to adults. So take advantage of everything that Pro Swing has to offer. 803-592-3916 or go to proswingcolumbia.com.
Yard Road. And your forecast looking pretty nice. 89 today, 92 tomorrow, 93 for game day, sunny each and every day. Right now, it's a nice start to your morning. 64 on the early game.
Now, last week's Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge was a whole lot of fun because we got to do it live from Darlington. That was a fun afternoon. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and we had to have got to have Josh in person do it with us.
That was a bonus.
That was a bonus.
And got to take you a little bit around the track, get you a little bit familiar with a few things, because you were a novice, hadn't actually been to a track before, or at least inside.
Yeah, I was a rookie, and unlike some rookies in NASCAR, I didn't hurt myself getting out of the vehicle that I got there with.
Nope, you did not get the Darlington stripe. That was a good thing.
That's good. I didn't get run over, so that means next time I want to try to get in a car. We'll see if I can. I want to weasel my way in somewhere I'm not supposed to belong.
Yeah, I tried doing that a time or two. Hey, Josh, not that we're conspiring to do anything wrong.
Yeah, he's not listening.
No, don't mind us.
Oh, no, didn't hear any of that. So glad we had a great time last week. As always, good to have you out to the track and tear that rookie stripe off now. And we're great weekend as a whole, and got the playoffs started, and off we go.
Absolutely. So how did you feel like, obviously you were paying attention to everything as far as putting on the event itself and having to do everything that you do, but how did you feel the racing went overall? I mean, obviously Chase Briscoe dominated out there, which was pretty exciting to see. But as far as everything else, racing-wise, what'd you think about the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we'll start with the racing. I thought on Saturday you kind of had two trucks that looked to be the class of the field, with the 34 of Lane Riggs and obviously Corey Heim, and those two guys kind of battled it out throughout, and Heim was able to get ahead off that last pit stop and drive away. 8th win of the year. He's had the dominant truck. So not surprised to see him get his playoffs started, the way he did. And then on Sunday, Chase Briscoe was so close to sitting on the pole again. Denny Hamlin just got him there, and but from the drop of the green flag, he kind of took control of the race and never really let go. Lost the lead sometimes during pit stop strategy, but I think he showed that they came prepared. They had a good plan. All the Toyotas ran well, and ultimately, he gets back-to-back Cookout Southern 500 wins. Not something that's happened very often, and those that have done it, he puts himself in some pretty elite company. So great job of the 19 team. They've started their playoffs off as good as you can. Made a statement. It's one thing to win a race. I think it's another to come out and dominate a race like that and kind of show your competitors that you're here and you're going to be a threat.
And as far as seeing some of the performance, it was actually kind of interesting because we saw a bunch of mishaps in the pits the week prior, very kind of surprisingly, and you expected some of that to be cleaned up, and yet still had some snafus in the pits this week. Hendrick really had a tough go overall. I mean, William Byron, crew chief, fully admitted that, they were not dialed in at all, didn't really have the car set up as they needed to. Do you think the cooler temperatures played some kind of a role in how the performance was or how people were prepared for the race? I mean, not that it was cold, but usually it's, as we've said before, it's like being on the surface of the sun in the pits and on that track in most times in the Southern 500. So thoughts on the weather?
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly could have been a factor. The other thing that when you look at Toyota as a whole and how well so many of their teams ran, whether it was Joe Gibbs Racing, the 2311 cars running well, and the Legacy Motor Club cars, you had John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones both up front. So part of it makes me wonder, did Toyota as a whole just hit on something that elevated their performance and minimized the impact of all the other teams? So, certainly there's some challenges that each team had, when you look at pit stops and whatnot, and, Alex Bowman, certainly impacted him. Kyle Larson had a little bit of damage on the front of his car, and Byron and Elliott just didn't have the same amount of speed. It is surprising. You expect teams like that have locked themselves in to come in, and they've shown it in the past. They've come to Darlington, they've had speed, they've contended. So it was a little surprising. I think as we go through the next couple of weeks, you got a flat track coming up here this weekend, and you got Bristol. So it'll be interesting to see how those teams rebound. And you got to do it quickly if you want to stay locked into the playoffs.
And for sure with Penske, they tend to do well with those shorter, flat tracks. So Gateway may be a really good opportunity for them because right now you have Joey Logano kind of in the outside looking in, sitting at 13th, Austin Dillon 14th, Bowman and Barry rounding out the four that are outside of that top 12 in the playoffs. So we look ahead, going to Illinois, just outside of St. Louis, so that's not near me, just way other side of town. I've never been to that track, and obviously we just started going back there again. But anyway, what are our thoughts on making picks for this weekend? Do you have any favorites? I mean, I guess I shouldn't ask for favorites. I guess we should probably just get into. Oh, look at that. Elijah's like clicking the pen.
I'm listening for the breakdown here. We're taking notes.
I have a strategic question.
Yes.
Does being in the playoffs already affect racing strategies as you move forward, or does that change the way teams approach each race?
I think it does a little bit. You know, depending on where you are. Let's take a guy, for instance, like Alex Bowman, who came in, you know, got in the last playoff spot on points. Points were reset. He didn't have a good race at Darlington, has fallen a little bit further behind. I think that team will probably, from a strategy standpoint, it starts with qualifying, but if they can start up, if they can start somewhere near the front, stage points will be really important for them in addition to trying to go for the win. They're important for everyone, but I think a team like that may use different strategy to try to secure as many points, whereas a team that's, you know, top 4 or 5, you know, they can take a few more risks trying to get that win that would lock them in. So I think it does play a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're all out there for one to try to win the race, and then two to get the best result and the most points they can get.
Yep, and I think absolutely Chase Briscoe right now probably the most relaxed team because they're already in the top 12. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get to our picks for this week. And sadly, I start first because Byron, thanks to his crew chief, didn't do so well for me this past week. So I'm sitting at 83, Josh at 86, Preston right there at 90. Bill and Elijah at 91, and Reggie sitting at 100. He's cracked the triple digits. It's just insane. So I'm going to take somebody who won the first time we were there. I'm going to go Joey Logano and say Penske just does. Apparently that's who Preston wanted. So I'm feeling pretty good about that, you know, because Preston's kind of kicking my tail. So we head to Josh. Josh, who do you think is going to come away victorious in the second round of the playoffs?
Well, I'm going to stick with Team Penske, but I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. He was in line to win this race last year. Ran out of gas on the last lap, so I think he closes the deal this time.
Outstanding. All right. And that takes us to Preston, since I stole your pick. I'm so sorry.
That was one of my picks. I felt like he needed to get in, but give me Christopher Bell.
Yep, another solid choice. All right, so, Elijah, what are you thinking?
You know, I'll go Kyle Larson.
Yep.
I don't think I've picked him all season. So,
tell you what, they could use some good luck. They really could. It seemed like he kind of was back and forth at Darlington, but just couldn't seal the deal. Again, Hendrick just struggled mightily.
I'll buy low on Larson.
There you go. All right. Well, so we've taken Bell, Blaney, Larson. So that leaves for Reggie, Tyler, Reddick. So we're all set for the weekend. Josh, we really appreciate it. I hope you're able to get a little bit of rest after a very busy and very successful race weekend at Darlington.
I appreciate it. We're gonna close the office down tomorrow and Monday. Give everybody a long weekend to recover. But I just want to say thank you to everybody out there listening. If you came out to the track, we appreciate the support. It was a great weekend overall. Phenomenal weather, and we're looking ahead now to 2026.
We appreciate it, Josh, and look forward to talking to you next week.
All right, thank you.
Josh Harris, certified winner. We'll give you our certified winners for today's show coming up next. Can I coach with them? Coach Singletary asks, and we pull through our winners for today's show. Preston Thorne, the winner that you are offering up to Mike Singletary is
the NFL.
Yes.
The NFL, America's game. Every game, they will break screening records. They will break viewership records. You will complain about Red Zone having commercials, but you know what? The NFL doesn't care because you can't resist them.
They have you wrapped around their finger.
You can't resist them.
We are suckers.
You can complain all you want, but the NFL's back. You'll watch them on Sunday. You'll watch them on Monday. You'll watch them on Thursdays, eventually Saturdays.
Boo.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve. Doesn't matter. The NFL's got you in a chokehold, and we could not be happier to be there. NFL is back.
We get a rivalry game for the first game of the
Nice.
year, too.
Yep. Nice.
The highest point spread of the week in the NFL outside of Titans-Broncos, but it is a rivalry
We
game.
will be looking for a report from Senor Henry on the results of this, so I will be thinking about him as I watch the game tonight.
If nothing less, I'll get like a post-game report video or something from him that I can get you guys for tomorrow or like even next Thursday, just to build the anticipation of how he feels.
We need a Rick Henry reaction video over whatever happens tonight, because it's going to be one or the other. It's either going to be really excited because they win and pull off an upset, or it's classic Cowboys.
Yep. What you got?
One of the two. My winner for today's show, the beef package. We're calling out Dabo Sweeney. We're calling up Brian Kelly. The boys are beefing. And this is what college football is all about. This is fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's something to keep an eye on in case they do end up playing in the college football playoff. Or if anything, we already have something for media days next year that we can talk about in terms of juice going into week 1.
Speaking of beef, I'd like to give a shout out to the South Carolina Social Studies Standards, grade 8, 8.3, where you learn about the Kansas-Nebraska Act and Bleeding Kansas.
Yes.
In reference to the Missouri-Kansas rivalry, who have a very long-standing beef, if I should say the least. To put it lightly, don't quite get along.
No, never have.
So, if you want to do your Wikipedia, go read up on the Bleeding Kansas. Different time in the country, I would say that.
Yes.
People handle disagreements they didn't tweet about them back then.
No, they killed each other for it. Yeah.
I'll come see you.
Yeah, and they'll come see you, all right? And they'll be the last thing you see, right?
Drop a pin. I'm coming. So, shout out to Bleeding Kansas.
And those two teams get to meet this Saturday. And honestly, that's a rivalry game that should have never gone away. That's one of those things you go out of your way to schedule that one every year. You absolutely should be playing every single year. And now that the SEC is forcing a mandate, even with a 9-game schedule to play everybody, would not be too terribly upset if, even with Kansas football being Kansas football, that we still got that rivalry just because of the significance of it.
I want to give another quick one, and this is in honor of Rick Henry. Winners are you Cowboy fans who every year, despite it being since 1996 since you won, you still believe that this is the year.
Their championship documentaries are on VHS. Think about that. The last documentary that is made, because every time somebody wins the Super Bowl, you can buy the game. The NFL sells the game that you can have a physical copy of the tape of. I still, underneath my TV on my entertainment system, I still have the DVD of the Saints beating the Colts in the Super Bowl, the greatest night of my life. That one's on DVD. Cowboy fans, the last ones that you have came in a VHS tape.
But they make this whole thing because who else can we laugh at? Who else can we point at? Who else can we have fun, make fun of? So, Cowboy fans, you are needed in this NFL ecosystem. We appreciate you, and good luck for another year of failure.
I think an individual solo isolated win should go to Rick Henry because of his, I don't think I've met a lot of Cowboy fans. My roommate is a Cowboys fan. He's a diehard. I've never seen anybody in my years of knowing Cowboys fans who is more devoted to the success, or even if they're not good, Rick Henry will be the utmost biggest fan. And he'll voice his concerns, but he's gonna go. He will go to battle for the Cowboys any day of the week, and I respect it.
I love the optimism. I'll always love fan optimism, right? Even when your team's really bad. I always love fan optimism. And before we get out of here in just a little bit too, I want to give you all the winners as well. Everyone that has participated in the Underdog Challenge, a ton of participation. If you have not heard from me back on the text line, you will. There's so many people that I'm having to,
Nice.
I jot all these down by hand to keep up with it. So just be patient with me. If you sent your text in before 9 o'clock, you're going to be locked in. So everybody that is participating in that, you are a winner as well. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri, they're winners. And the extra point is coming up next.
Press here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield, no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance company to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are. School, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to the job and take care of it for you. Now, if you're at home looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at absoluteglassinc.com. That's online at absoluteglassinc.com.